but we should all enjoy each other's individual culture. This is a very, very important thing. And what we're seeing with this division is exactly that. Like by making, people with flags, with this, whatever, it's very clever marketing to divide and conquer. And many of us, a great percentage of us, are now waking up to that.
And so why is it so global? Do you see the patterns here, guys?
Certainly there.
We do.
All been organised.
It's a massive land grab.
Before we start, we need to tell you up front we are not a licensed financial planning, accounting or law firm. This is simply an education program which will give you factual information. We do not give any general or specific advice around finance, business, investing, options trading or anything else. That is not what this presentation does. Please see a licensed financial planner when it comes to any investment advice you need.
All right, it is the Great Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia. Derek, I'm going to jump to you straight away. We're going to go straight into the show here, mate. And forget the presence of the monkey to my right. The old shaved monkey. It is good to see.
It's literally shaved, though.
What have we got on the show today,
I've
mate?
called it the Socialist Globalist Playbook to convince you to give up your land.
That?
Right.
I've just started noticing some patterns that are going on globally. That I thought was really, really fascinating. You remember back in September of this year, we had those tragic fires on the island of Maui in Hawaii.
Do?
Oh, the ones created by the laser beam.
That's the rumor. And
melting alloy rims.
everything that was, I want to go back and revisit that a little bit. And I love the long form type of video interview that we do these days with podcasts and putting it kind of into the context of things. We're allowing people to really say what they really mean and that sort of thing. So in that spirit, I've got a few videos today that kind of fit with that. I thought we'd first go to good old Tulsi Gabbard on
always fantastic to hear from Tulsi. Yep.
Yeah, let's have a listen.
Are we ready? We're ready.
Put it in context and remind us what happened. What I'm going to do from there is I'm going to go around the globe and then bring it back to Australia and see how it relates to you and I.
All right.
They were completely overwhelmed and unprepared for this unprecedented wildfire. It's the worst wildfire our country has seen in over 100 years. But the problem is, once you get to that point, like, oh shit, this is really, really, really bad. Not only in the hundreds of lives lost in that fire, but the surrounding communities of people who survived, but who went without power, who went without any cell phone signal, any ability to communicate with people, who didn't have, all of the gas stations in their neighborhood, they were empty. There was no way to get gas. They couldn't get food. They couldn't get clean water. The water supply systems were contaminated. I mean, there was disaster upon disaster that came in the aftermath of the fire that went unaddressed. And my biggest, I went there a few days after the fire happened. Maui was my district for 8 years when I served in Congress, and had a lot of friends there and went out to those affected communities. And what I heard over and over again was no one from the county, the state, or the federal government has shown their face in our community. It is neighbors helping neighbors, families helping families, people on the island of Molokai, which they don't have much on their island. Everything comes in by barge. They're loading up whatever they have in their general store on these little boats and running them over to West Maui on a private boat dock, because that was the only place that they wouldn't be blocked from bringing food and water and medical supplies.
Now, why are people being blocked? I keep hearing that about people being blocked. Is it because they haven't gotten an accurate death count? Is it because they have to make an assessment of how much was damaged and it's so massive, it's so vast that they haven't been able to do that yet? Like, why is it being blocked?
Things are being opened up now. I think people are able to get in and out of the West Maui area. I understand that the historic town of Lahaina is still being blocked off, and they're working on reopening it as we speak. But in the couple of weeks after the fire, I don't have a good answer why they continue to block the roads again to those surrounding communities. Why they blocked people like Kai Lenny and others from using their jet skis and boats to try to bring supplies in through the water. You could say, well, we were trying to secure the area, but you're blocking friends and family from coming in and bringing necessary supplies, literally doing supply runs. So, I jumped on a plane that was doing supply runs from Kahului, the main airport on Maui, out to this tiny little airport that serves that community. And that was, for a lot of days, the only way that they could get supplies brought in. I don't know. I really don't know. But again, this goes back to, why aren't you communicating to people what's going on?
So one thing, I've stopped it there for a reason. I had family in the Yalgoo bushfire in WA and totally wiped out the town. It doesn't exist anymore.
Effectively.
So what was happening, because the bushfires were so severe, there were some survivors in there. So the army was actually helicopter dropping, like literally just throwing shit out of a helicopter so they could have food for the animals and food for themselves and stuff like that. This is Hawaii. It's actually not that far from the mainland. You can, and also with the US military, they've got aircraft carriers and all sorts of shit.
It's further from the mainland than you think. It's about a 4 or 5 hour flight.
Yeah, but they have aircraft carriers that have 1,000 planes on them. Mm-hmm. How can they not load one of those up with food and supplies and all that sort of stuff and then just send helicopters in?
Mm-hmm. And remember, this is not the only island of Hawaii. There's a group of islands, right? Yeah. Yes. So there's other supplies on those other islands that they get as immediate relief while they organise the other.
So I with the resources that the US military has, how the hell, even if they do need to, like, there's still a fire burning there, how can they not just helicopter in supplies? Mm-hmm. Like that dumbfounds me how retarded America is. Like, it's just absolutely.
Say what you really think.
And freedom
just
of
watch
speech
the
matters.
patterns here, Travis. Just watch the patterns. Keep watching. There's something important that she brings up in just a moment. Have a listen to this.
Why you're doing what you're doing. All the result of their decisions left people and families and communities stranded in their most dire time of need. And the mayor didn't go out and show his face until almost 2 weeks after the fire happened.
Wow, that's insane.
It's crazy.
Listen to this.
So it sounds like Scott Morrison.
It's a familiar word.
Trying to force a handshake and getting shut down. So anyway.
He says he wants to take the land for the state. That's his first.
Now this is
I think
one of
the
the
governor.
Reasons,
So the governor said he wants to take the land for the state.
Yes.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Aaron.
It does just a little bit.
Now keep listening. The discussion goes further. Listen to it.
one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this. Like, how is that possible? That these people could lose their home and then lose their land? Like, how is that possible?
It is the number one concern of people there in Lahaina, is that a few days after this happened, I haven't spoken to the governor, but he said in a press conference, he said, we're talking to the attorney general. He said, I'm talking to my attorney general to explore options for the state to take over that land and use it to build workforce housing or build a memorial to the for the people who lost their lives. Yeah. But the fears that the people in Lahaina have, some of whom, like Archie Kalepa, famous surfer, community leader, Native Hawaiian leader, his family has lived in Lahaina for 9 generations, now being told, well, the state, the governor is looking at taking that land, taking ownership of that land, that it is unconscionable. And there's, we'll for those who've been displaced, we'll see about doing a land swap and we'll send you to the Big Island to live in Puna.
Jesus.
It's taking away the sovereignty of people's rights to have a say over their home, in many cases, their generational lands, it is such an abuse of power. And so this is, and I'm glad that there are leaders in the community who are leaning into this fight to make sure that they are fighting this fight before anybody tries to do that, rather than looking in the rearview mirror and saying, gosh, I wish we had done something.
So it's huge.
I hate to say the amount of similarities to Australia to that.
Oh, it's outstanding. I can't believe it. I mean, honestly, I've lived it. I have lived it. I really have. And I mean,
yeah, but the first thing we got to talk about here in America, when you buy the land, you actually own the land.
Yeah, it's
in Australia, when you buy the land, no, the government owns the land. You just have it off there.
Well,
you're renting it off them, basically.
What is it? Compulsory acquisition, right?
Yeah.
That little thing in Australia. So if they decide one day they want to build a road there, they can do it. I mean, basically they'll buy it from you. And we know that the movie The Castle was all about that. That was a great comedy, yes. But let's be honest,
it was a good story, isn't it?
Yeah,
like very
story.
Good morals. But you got to remember, and this is a risk of buying any land in any Commonwealth country, the government can take the land at any stage on instructions of King Charles.
Yeah.
So it's not even the Australian government that's taking it, it's King Charles.
Well, I don't think that's a big, it's certainly not a fear in my everyday life that King Charles is going to come and take my land.
Well, for people that live down near Beldives, it happened when they put the Mandurah bypass road in. They forced acquisitions,
Yeah,
people's fully
yeah.
functioning houses, no
Yeah.
bushfires, nothing. They said, right, we're taking your land to build a freeway.
That's right. And that has happened always, unfortunately, in this country. But in the US, as I understand, it's very, very different. Once you buy that land, that is your land.
Not only that, but if you have oil underneath that land, that's your oil, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Drill,
Not
baby,
the first
drill.
18 inches as we have here in Australia. I mean, technically,
That's what she said.
if you put a swimming pool in right now, okay, when you dive into that pool, I just learned to ignore him. But okay, when you dive into that swimming pool, what happens is that you're swimming in government water, effectively. That's how dumb it is. I mean, first 18 inches.
Australian Constitution states that any God-given things is free to the people.
Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of mess on this.
So I love
Ultimately-
how they try and tax like rainwater is God-given.
Yeah.
You can't be taxing rainwater. So,
Okay, but let's talk about how this really works, with what's going on, as I say, in the US there. When we're talking about taking away your land, a lot of the farmers in the US, they're having this problem right now. This is very real. And when we're talking about farmers, you're talking about food, you're talking about like literally the most, I mean, let's face it, none of us survive without food.
I've got something for you. Who's one of the biggest landowners in America?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. So
Well,
there's
look
an
at this,
interesting
guys. So
story.
3 months
60% of
later,
that-
that video came out on the 8th of September 2024.
Okay.
Then on the 9th of December 2024, this one comes out.
I have a question for y'all on December 6th, right here. Does FEMA have money or not? Does North Carolina have money or not? Because I have met with dozens of people in Western North Carolina one-to-one and asked them, as I'm processing other grant money, have you received help from North Carolina? The answer is no. Have you received help from FEMA? The answer is sometimes. And I'll ask, great, how much did you get? $750, $300. Or the lady I spoke to this week who's in a trailer house that has mold, the roof is messed up, but they're still living in it. FEMA came and told them it's uninhabitable. So you know how much FEMA gave them? $3,500. Now tell me this, y'all, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. How in the name of heavens is $3,500 the amount of money that should be offered to somebody whose house is deemed uninhabitable when they have nowhere else to go and they don't want to leave? We got to talk about this situation going on. The people don't want to leave. Now, there might be a couple that do, and we wish them all the best, and I want them to have what they want. But here's what's latest. North Carolina's emergency system has said they will do buyouts of houses impacted by Helene. Here's how the buyout works. You can get the money for your property based on pre-Helene values. Now, I did a whole video and an article in the Carolina Journal about this, so you know what questions to ask, and they will give you the money. Why will they give you the money for the buyout, but not to stay in the house you want? Somebody's going to have to answer that for me. Well, I found out it's because if North Carolina buys you out of that house, they get reimbursed 75% of it from FEMA. Okay, so if FEMA can reimburse 75% of the buyout value and North Carolina has the money to do it right now, how come the homeowner can't have that money to stay put? Because the outcome of selling your property to North Carolina and FEMA with the local authorities' blessing is that then they will finish demolishing and it will turn into green space. Oh, because that's so good for us. So I asked the legislator, I said, what's going to happen with that green space? I said, who's going to maintain it? And he said, well, it'll be funded by taxpayer dollars. And I said, guess what, buddy? All of this is funded by taxpayer dollars. Y'all got to figure this out. It's taxpayer dollars that FEMA is using and North Carolina is using to buy people out of their homes when all they want to do is stay. All right, so let's just riddle me this. If the government's willing to give them $150,000 for that single wide, how come they can't have the $150,000 to stay put? Why do they only get it if they leave? That doesn't make sense to me because that takes away the agency of the citizen. And frankly, it's completely un-American. Go read Federalist 54 and you will see how important private property was to our founding fathers. And it's got to be important to us again. Now, there's a bigger question here too.
Before she gets into that second question, I would just want to address staying versus going and why it's important to the government. So if they have a agenda, I'm not going to use the word agenda because I'm not sure what other words to use in this one. Right?
Agreed.
If they have an agenda to create more green spaces, obviously they're not going to assign more money for it. So for her to say, you got to remember that the government department always has a goal in mind. So they want the people out of their house. So they will be prepared to hand over money fist over foot to get people out because it suits what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're rezoning, they're redesigning, they want to reposition the population. Mm-hmm. And to do that, happy days, spend the money, give them the $150,000. They don't want the people to stay. So they're going to restrict how much money they actually have. So Obama actually, I can't believe I'm quoting Obama. He actually said, if you want to kill something, you tax it.
Yeah.
So this is exactly the same thing that they're doing. So when you tax someone, you're taking away the total amount of money they have to spend on something. So what's happening here, if you want to say, well, I don't give you like pittance, but if you're happy to move on, we don't throw money at you. So because they want people to move. I think this is something that's really important that people have to understand, that the government always has an agenda. And as long as you're playing along with that agenda, they're going to help you hand over fist. It's the moment when you try and stand up for yourself and you try to do what you want against the government, that's when they're going to start fighting you. So this is, again, where great transition here, building the Wealth Foundation. One of Derek's courses at bluskyfactory.com.au, and blue has no E in it. It actually does teach you how to learn to do these things, how to shape your life around with the system that you're in. So with Australia, we're in the Australian system. If you're in America, you need to know the system that you're in, so you know what you can and can't do and where you don't get pushback and how to counter that pushback. And if you don't understand that, you don't be in a world of hurt. It doesn't matter what you say, it's still going to hurt you. So that also does lead into the question here from Deploy. Welcome back to the stream as well. The Australian Constitution, hang on, just go make it big so I can read. Seems like the Aussie Constitution is nothing more than a suggestion booklet with no one has ever read. Not quite true. It is. It's actually a pretty apt description that it is a suggestion booklet. What the Australian Constitution does, it outlines the laws and regulations which the federal and state governments can actually make. So I love it when people say legal tender is to change it, you have to go through you have to do a referendum. That's bullshit. It actually states in the Australian Constitution that the federal government has the right to determine what is and is not legal tender. The federal government, without a referendum, can change legal tender. So at any time, they can turn around and go, right, central bank digital currencies is now legal tender in Australia. Cash is dead. They can do that at a moment's notice, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. If it passes both the upper house and lower house, that's what it is.
So the ultimate problem we've got with the Constitution is we have no Bill of Rights. That is
exactly.
That is
we don't have
massive issue.
And that's why I think the American Constitution is fantastic.
Yeah. And that's why Americans live by it. That's why it's so important to them. Australians,
it's their
unfortunately, we have the apathy here where she'll be right. And unfortunately, that the rules that have been written to live by and that she'll be right attitude have left a lot of holes for people in power to, basically just obliterate and do whatever they like.
Well, they know the system that they're in, so that's why they can get away with what they're doing. So I'm actually really impressed with this chick from North Carolina because she's actually gone through, found the legislation what allows them to do what they're doing, and she's informing people like, this is what they're doing, this is why they're doing it, so you've got to be prepared for it.
Oh, look, another sort of comment. You might want to bring this up from Boy as well, because I think this is quite relevant as well.
So you got the screen there, so you can see it easier.
Look, I was looking long
distance. They broke a lot of the Constitution during COVID.
They most certainly did. They threw that out, I tell you, right, with the baby with the bathwater.
Oh, the one I really want to have a look at is what they did to Clive Palmer.
Oh,
because that breaks so many laws. It's not funny. I have no idea.
They had a great marketing technique.
No, it doesn't matter.
It's called Seven West Media. It's got a close relationship, like an incestuous relationship.
I'm sorry. The Federal Legislations Act overrides everything that the state government has. So why didn't they take that into account? Anyway,
because it comes back to agenda.
And it's Mum McGowan, Daddy McGowan. So anyway, back to this video. Derek, so far what she said, it's your video.
Yeah, keep going.
Keep going?
Yep. Go with it.
Why not?
Why does FEMA have jurisdiction to do this? How much power does this agency have? And when is some very bright lawyer going to call me, and y'all please share this with your lawyer friends? Seems to me that the Chevron doctrine, which got overturned by the Supreme Court this year, should be in play here, because FEMA is nothing more than an agency overstepping its bounds. And we have local authorities caving to FEMA. North Carolina's doing whatever they're told to do because they want to grab the money. And you know who's caught in the middle of all this in the worst possible position? It's a homeowner who wants to stay in their communities. Yesterday I was meeting with some people in a small town. It's not even a town, it's a hamlet really. And they don't want to go. They love their community, they love their neighbors, and they want to stay put. But they're going to see these dollars, and if the only access to the dollars is to leave, what are they going to do? Why are we putting up with this, y'all? Not everybody wants to live in a 15-minute city. Not everybody wants to live even in a big town. Some people enjoy the privacy of the mountains, which is one of the beauties of this area. Now, FEMA wants to tell people you can't rebuild because, you might flood again. Y'all, this was a once-in-a-thousand-year flood. And if somebody wants to stay put, why can't they sign a waiver? In fact, let's talk about that real quick, because if you have a mortgage on a property, The mortgage requires you to have insurance, and insurance ain't paying right now. And the mortgage might require you to have flood insurance, and flood insurance ain't paying. So why exactly does the bank get to make you hold insurance and flood insurance when those items won't pay out anyway? And then here you are. You're in a property that you were told was okay.
I got jumping on this one on the insurance side of things. Again, knowing the system that you're in, most people, you say to them, okay, what's a flood?
Yeah, well, it's water coming into my house.
Okay, from the top or the bottom?
Well, okay, the water comes up, so it's coming from the bottom. But if it came
You sure
from
about
the
that?
rain,
What about if it came sideways?
Oh, I don't know. You know what?
So this is where the definitions of your insurance is ultra important. If it comes in through the roof, it's storm damage,
right?
Which is generally covered.
Okay.
It comes up from underneath, maybe, could be. Because it could be water coming up from the water table, which isn't a flood.
Okay.
And then if it gets blown in by the wind from the side, it's a storm surge, which isn't covered by insurance anyway.
Okay. No matter what, you're getting wet, right? Okay.
Yeah.
End of the day, the car's looking flash.
Yeah. Like normal people, water came into the house, it's above the rafters, so obviously it's a flood. But no, not to insurance companies. Where's the water? Is it salty? If the water's salty, it's definitely not a flood.
I had a water pipe, my previous place, water pipe broke, and flooded, and I had a sunken
So the
room.
water pipe is a maintenance issue, so it's not covered by insurance, but the resulting damage is.
Well, hang on. Well, there you go. So I had a sunken games room, right? It became a nice swimming pool, indoor pool, right?
Grab your float distance.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was covered. So there you go.
Generally, the pipe would not be covered.
Oh, okay.
You'd have to pay for that yourself, which is part of your excess.
Yep.
And then the resulting damage from the water damage is what's covered by the insurance
wonder if
company.
That's actually what happened. Who knows? I'm not
so
sure.
a lot of people don't. Biggest lie in history. I've read and accepted the terms and conditions.
It is true.
How many people here have actually read the terms and conditions on the insurance documentation?
Or Apple or anything like
I
that?
have on my business, yeah.
Yeah, for your business, that's because it's your business source of income, but your home insurance.
Now, we've got another comment coming in here from Francisco, I believe. So do you want to bring that up, and we'll make
you can read it because I can't be bothered making a pic. Come on, Aaron. Where's your glasses, by the way?
I don't need glasses.
It's a land grab, own nothing and be happy. So I love this statement. Like Klaus Schwab, you got to remember, he is someone that actually understood the system because he created a lot of it. You know the best thing about owning nothing? You can't get sued.
There is an advantage. Okay.
So if you are a business owner and you don't want to be a part of the Australian socialist system, you jump across to the capitalist system, you set yourself up correctly, you own nothing, you have entities that own everything for you, and then you own nothing, you're happy and you can't be sued. Well, happy days.
It's a very nice. All I can think about is that Bobby McFerrin song, Don't worry, be happy.
Exactly.
It could be. It could be the actual anthem of the independent business owner.
Now, again, a great time for another segue. So if you do want to learn the systems, there's a guy over here for the people who are watching at home. It's Derek. So Blu Sky Factory.
Look, I think there's an interesting pattern here because, of course, Tulsi later in that interview also called out how much they were getting, the people who were suspect to these victims of this fire. And I hate the word victims because
exactly.
But anyway, it's about $700, and she's going, "What is that going to do?" Or $3,000 in some situations if they lost their homes. What's that going to do? What does $3,000 do in the most expensive place in America to live? And cost of living is just through the roof in Hawaii. And I think what we're watching here is a pattern of behavior, right? Because keep in mind, this is only 3 months apart from each other. All right, the fire it was in September 8th. This video is from the 9th of December. So we've got 3 months going here. You would have thought the emergency services might have learned a lesson between then.
Oh, hell no.
Those two things. So interesting, the pattern going on here. James O'Keefe has just released one of these undercover videos about FEMA and how little they've done in North Carolina. I was watching that and showing how basically the locals are banding together with volunteers, rebuilding. They're funding it themselves. Right?
Yeah.
No government money. Anything like that.
Government money is taxpayer money. Always like to mention
and they point out, we've been paying taxes all our lives, and they're not here for us. They're not here to help us out whatsoever.
And also, the virtue signal is unbelievable. And I don't want to sit here and tell my story, yada yada. But I do have some little personal experience with this.
Yes.
12 months ago. So the lies that the government come in. We're going to have this fantastic. We've got a recovery centre. Come into the recovery centre, right? Now, after a fire, you go into your recovery centre. And they've got all the different departments, and this person's going to help you with this, and this department's going to help you with that. Now, there goes a big U around the room, and you go from department to department. Do you know, I can say this hand on heart, that every single department, every single person I spoke to in the recovery centre lied to me. Every single one of them let me down. Every single one of them promised something that they did not deliver, and they failed so miserably in delivery that it's embarrassing. And then the mayor steps in. The mayor says, "Oh, we're so good because we've got all the fire breaks up to date." No, you didn't. No, you don't. No. So, like, physically from my home, I could see grass 1.8 meters tall. In fact, I sent you a video about it a week before the fire. The lies and the virtue signaling, and this is the thing, it all works in the news cycle. So then it goes off to Channel 9, Channel 7, or Channel 10, whoever wants to show up, right? And then they all tell themselves how good they are, how they pat themselves on the back. It's not real.
And not just that, but who was there to help you, Aaron?
Oh, now
Lowe's was.
Thank you, Lowe's.
I'm saying there is there's a pattern here.
No, there is a pattern here. And I thank you so much for bringing that up. Okay. Losing everything and going through what I went through, horrible event. Okay. And there's so many, and there was 18 houses lost, homes lost. And that's an important thing to mention to people, because it's not actually about the building. It's about the home and the environment and
the memories inside those homes.
Spot on. So, that's such a very,
and insurance can't cover that shit.
Of course it can't. So. But through all of that negativity, oh my word, I was overwhelmed by incredible positivity, because the people that helped me, the community stepped up. And like literally in my case, I'm unbelievably lucky. Tens of thousands of people literally reached out to me directly. Like I'm talking real numbers. I couldn't actually keep up with it.
You know, the bit I
from
found
all different organizations, independent people. It was amazing. So like a big love for the community, full stop. Big hate.
And some of those were not-for-profit organisations too.
Yeah, absolutely.
We weren't government controlled.
Oh, that's right. Well, that's right. Churches was a big one for me, which I felt very privileged, I suppose, because let's be very frank, I'm not a regular church goer. I have my faith, but I'm pretty stuck in that department in some respects.
We do have to give credit to one person though.
Who's that?
So the one I did not expect to actually give you a fair hearing and fair coverage of it was actually Christopher Tan from the SBS.
Yeah, very good point.
He actually did a really good article. It was blunt. It was to the point. There was no opinions or biasness in it whatsoever, considering your background. By the way, I love the Edge Radio sticker on your van in the background on the interview. But yeah, SBS was, I cannot believe SBS did a fair article.
Yeah. But anyway, my point is, this is not about me or my story. This is about the fact that, okay, I've got some fresh knowledge. Fresh knowledge of how this goes on, right?
You've got expert subject matter.
I do. When I look at these people from look at the experiences from also the people of North Carolina, I mean, unbelievable. I can now really genuinely identify with them, and I can see that these pocket bits have changed, right? They don't. It's not about money. It is about the fact that you've got nothing. Like when, you don't own socks, you don't own a toothbrush anymore.
You do now. Your socks are amazing.
Thank you, mate.
Nearly as scary as your legs.
I should get them up on camera.
Not with those legs.
But yeah, so anyway, community steps up. Community's damn awesome. That's a great thing to see now. I think we're going to jump back into the video. Or
are we finishing this one or the next one?
Well, let's have a look at the next slide.
So the image.
Let's go across the pond. The UK government is sending farmers abroad.
Yeah.
Over £530 million in foreign aid, whilst the inheritance taxes are changing to raise £520 million for the Treasury. So isn't that nuts, right?
It's incredible.
So this is the thing that the farmers over in the UK are protesting about, is that this inheritance tax that they're doing makes it very difficult for their children to inherit the land. Now, keep in mind that there's not a lot of money for many of these farmers in the game, right? If they make $30,000, $40,000, they have a bad season. That's it. They're waiting until the next season for rain or whatever it might be, right?
So
they take on huge, massive risk. And now these governments are going, right, we'll send farmers abroad £530 million in foreign aid to the UK government, whilst the inheritance tax will raise that to $520 million for the Treasury. Now, these farmers, it got worse. On the 2nd of November 2024, it was reported that a farmer tragically took his own life after the Labor tax grab on inheritance. The father was reported to have killed himself in a barn after his children were faced with a 20% inheritance tax bill. Chancellor Rachel Reeves said that she will revoke farmland's exemption from inheritance tax. So this is really affecting him, going, how am I going to help my kids and pass this on to them? Bear in mind, most farmers make the most of their money when they actually sell up and they sell the land eventually.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And then they get nailed with capital gains tax on top of it.
On that front, though, the person who's really stepped up on this one, you've got to put your hands together for Jeremy Clarkson, okay, for what he has done. He has used his profile so well, and I'm really impressed with this. I mean, obviously, he's got the show about farming, and he's got skin in the game. But to be frank with you, without that celebrity value and that power there, would the government actually be taking it that seriously? I think not.
He also took a swipe at his old employers, the BBC, the whole process as well, and said, let's get the report straight, guys. Let's report it accurately.
So I just want to bring this back to Australia.
Yep.
For decades, the Greens have been pushing to have a 50% inheritance tax brought into Australia.
Yes.
So that's not just on farmland. That's on residential houses. That's on cars, vehicles, cash in the bank, 50% flat inheritance tax.
Yep.
So you got to remember to put that money into the bank, into the properties and all that sort of stuff. You've already paid tax on it. If it's a property, you've already paid stamp duty.
Yep.
You've already paid all these taxes. This is a huge money grab, and UK's already got it. And people always have, because we're in the process now of transferring the house into our business. Like, it's don't take a while. They're like, oh, but you don't have to pay stamp duty again. It's like, I don't care. Because stamp duty now is going to be a hell of a lot less than stamp duty in about 30 years' time.
And here's the interesting part about what you've just said, Travis, too, is that in the United States, your personal residence is a tax exemption if you're paying a mortgage on it, right? The interest
Not in
is tax
Australia.
deductible. Not in Australia, unless it's an investment
So,
property.
by the way, just for legal purposes, before you take legal advice or accounting advice from any of us, please go see a tax professional.
Yep.
That's right. So that's a huge difference too in terms of those funds. Now they want to tax you on top of that. Well, you're right. Accountants are already planning, at least my accountants are, that comes in, which is a real shame if it does. And I think it's like, wake up, Australia. This is what's happening every time you vote left for the lefties.
You need to know the system you're in. You need to understand how it's going to impact you.
Do you want your children to inherit your personal home tax-free?
By the way, if they can't pay the inheritance tax, the government will take their property, they'll fire sell it, and give you what's left over.
That's right. And that's right. The fire sale will be for far less because, quite frankly, somebody who is internally involved will purchase it. That's what normally happens on these things. They'll pick it up for probably about 30% of its value. You end up with absolutely disgusting. It really is. And the ethicists that, and I don't hide behind any screens as far as my partisan views. The reality is Labor are socialists, okay?
Well, it's in their constitution.
I know, it is in their constitution. The Greens, right? There's a reason why you call them Watermelon Party, okay? They might be green on the outside, but they are red on the inside. The Greens are utterly dishonest. They really are. They are a full socialist party, and they hide behind this pretext of being about the environment. It is lie. It is a blatant lie. It is nothing but marketing.
Okay.
They want your money. They want power and control of you.
If the Greens were genuinely about the environment, they would be talking about the Kwinana Outer Harbour, how much damage that's going to do to the environment. They wouldn't be sitting there protesting Route 8. They would be down in Bunbury, Bustleton, Esperance campaigning against the offshore wind turbines.
It would be, absolutely.
There's so many astronomically bad environmental things that they don't say shit about.
I will use Route 8 as an example, right? Because most people aren't aware of this, but the Australian Labor Party, okay, actually paid those protesters $500 a week, right, to protest, to sit in those trees. Okay. So hang on, if that isn't like utterly dishonest and immoral, they're paying wages to professional protesters who just fake greenies, right, to go and hug a tree, to go stick in the tree for $500 a week. So they're picking up, okay,
$500 a week.
They're getting that.
That's more than Centrelink.
Well, no, they're getting that and Centrelink. They're getting that and Centrelink, right?
So we'll just go get all our pensioners. Like, we'll go find the Greens office or something. You know what? Have $500. Go protest the Greens. Sit outside their office for $500 a week.
Well, you could get some. That'd be great. We'll get some pensioners sitting out there, do some crochet work out the front. It'd be fantastic.
Cooking something like muffins.
Scones and tea.
That's right.
All right, next video, because I know we are running out of time. So we did have a few tech issues.
But there's hope, guys, and have a look at this. The hope that's happening right now. And so it gets even better. Check it out on the next video. They were rolling en masse. So you think that the people are just taking this as it comes? No. Have a look at this. Back to back.
Oh, look, this is like the parking lot of BNS Ball. This is fantastic.
I think this one's in Westminster, this one,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just huge. It just goes on and on and on. This onslaught of tractors coming into town.
And this is the way people power works, right? People have got to be active.
So you're seeing people power in the UK. You're
Mhm.
seeing the people power in the United States,
Sure.
people calling them out, the independent journalists calling it out. And you see, of course, these politicians, in the case of Tulsi Gabbard,
Mm-hmm.
taking power as well.
There's
You know
one
things are gonna
country you
change
haven't
there.
taken into account with this one. It's in the EU as well.
Yes.
What's just happened in France? They've actually voted out both according to the media, the far left and the far right have joined hands to kick out the prime minister. He had to resign last week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't you guys know about that?
Hang on.
The prime minister of France had to resign.
Yep.
I did not know.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
What happened is in the French parliament, when he doesn't have a total majority in both houses, so there's only one way he can ram a bill through,
Right.
and it's never used. Like, you just don't do it. So he went to release the budget, massive tax increases across the board for everyone. Like, cost of living is already bad enough as it is.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember the exact details. Huge tax increases. It was going to put an insane amount of pressure on the people. So the people from both the left and right never joined forces in French politics. And they actually did this the first time ever. They did a vote of no confidence. It went through parliament and it actually succeeded. They needed 288 votes. They got 315 or something. So it passed strongly.
Keep in
We're
mind,
talking
Macron is still in power.
Macron's the
that's
leader.
why- that's why
Remember,
I'm
he's the
confused.
president.
He's the president.
This is the prime minister.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Okay, now I'm with you. Right.
So
I
it's
just
like
had a moment
Michelle
there.
something or rather.
Sure,
so
sure.
3 months in the job, less than 3 months in the job.
Right.
Shortest term for any prime
Okay,
minister.
I'm back on. Okay, I
Now,
felt
there's
very uninformed
demand-
for a minute, but I was wrong because
Demand for Macron to step down as well.
And I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Zero surprise.
What's also interesting, I thought you're going to bring this up. What happened in the Netherlands just a year ago? They were trying to force the farmers there.
Oh, the ban on the nitrogen.
Well, to sell their land as
Yeah.
well. Remember about a
Yep.
year or two ago in 2022, 2023?
But the thing is, they're literally the food bowl of the EU. Like, why the
Exactly.
hell would you do that?
So what I'm doing is highlighting to you the
Mhm.
patterns here
They're-
to
they're
get the
clear.
farmer off the land. This has been going on for a while, but these, how obvious is it getting in the
Well-
United States case when it's just 3 months apart?
Well, there
We're
was also
talking,
pushing Australia for that as well, don't forget.
Exactly.
But they were doing it sneaky through the Aboriginal Heritage
And
Act.
that's what I was just going to bring up next. The Cultural Heritage Act in Western Australia back in 2023, they were trying to pass that last year.
Yeah.
And
Now, remember who was someone that was very instrumental to getting that overturned?
Edge Radio Australia was.
Yes,
we
with
were all
a-
down there.
I
at
still
the
can't believe the
election.
amount of people that watched that stream. Like, that was
Well,
just like
yeah.
a bit of an impromptu. So thank you to Christine Evans
Absolutely.
and Bernie Evans for helping to organise
Just
that one.
wonderful people. And for something that was impromptu to get 500,000 odd views and literally be mentioned with politicians, that was an instrumental part of the influence. So look, everyday people can make a difference, and that's the great thing about what we do here. As far as this is giving the everyday person the power of speech. Okay, we don't. We want to champion people in their independent opinions. It's very
I'd also
important.
like to point out too that put that together with what Tucker Carlson said in his recent visit across Australia, and he was amazed when he's on the airplane and they're doing the acknowledgement of nation, welcome to nation. He's going, what they're trying to. This is unusual. This is, and this is a beautiful thing about it is when a foreigner looks at your land. Remember, they're more objective about it than you are in your culture.
No doubt about it.
And he's saying what they're trying to make you say is it's not your land.
Yeah.
It's not your land. This is what they're saying with their welcome to country and the multiple flag waving that they're doing as well, right?
Oh.
And I pointed that out
You've
last
seen the
week.
news on that one?
What's that?
Peter Dutton's come out, said if he wins the
Yes.
prime ministership, he will only ever be doing press conferences in front of one flag.
Yep.
So
Genius, and it's important too.
And I want to say this about the Aboriginal people, if I may,
Yeah,
right?
go for it.
Are you being used like
Yes,
they
you
use
are.
the African American? The Democrats have been using the African Americans all these decades for
business
their
model.
political purposes.
It's a business model.
Let me ask you that. Has the Aboriginal people being used by different political parties for their own ends,
Well, there's
making them feel like, oh, you're special, you're a victim, we'll allow you to do this? Did your ancestors do welcome to country ceremonies?
no, only didn't go
actually,
invent it. So-
Exactly. I mean, it's the same as Aboriginal dot paintings were invented by a French person in the 60s, right? Just as a side knowledge, right? Okay. I've got Aboriginal friends who go out there and live their lives like everybody else and build businesses and build success, and they're great buddy people, right? And what I find very interesting amongst those friends of mine is that they don't like Welcome to Country. They see the division in it, right?
Well,
Because-
just have a look at Northern Territory for the no vote.
Yeah.
So,
Says so much.
Northern Territory, the largest Aboriginal population in Australia, voted no.
How many Aboriginals did not want the Cultural Heritage Act or the Voice as well?
Oh,
Yeah.
We've got to remember
No
this
question
on a
about it.
national level as well, guys.
Yeah.
So
Look, that vote for the Voice was just the nation all standing up and saying we've had enough of this woke rubbish.
Yep.
Okay, we all want to be treated equally. I mean, I was having a conversation with a nice fella who's just over there on the other side of the studio before. Like,
we got a gate crasher today.
have-
So we won't put him on camera
No,
yet.
Studio audience.
we have. But this is the thing. Like, okay, I've lived in the entertainment industry basically all my working life, and so many Kiwis in that industry.
You know, he's not Kiwi though.
Well, I don't know. We didn't know. We didn't
Samoan.
have that. Oh, geez.
You can tell by the tattoo. That's
I don't-
full Samoan. I don't know if it is not. I'm making shit up here, by the way.
Okay, just zip it on that. But my point is, okay, in the entertainment industry, there's a lot of Maoris and Baldies, right? And such a massive part of our culture is to pull the piss out of each other. But that is so much of Australian culture, right? And very much a show that we had just a week ago in with Edge and many other sort of outlets as well. Australian culture and culture is so important to each and every country.
Yes.
If I go to Italy, right? Okay, I don't want a Hungry Jack. I don't want a McDonald's. Okay, I want real, genuine pasta. I want to be talking to people who, in Italian. I want the Colosseum behind me, right?
And the concrete shoes. Oh, no, wait, that's Sicily.
No, it's Sicily. Right? That's a whole other trip. When you come to Australia,
Get it? Trip.
yes, I do. But we should all enjoy each other's individual culture. This is a very, very important thing. And what we're seeing with this division is exactly that. Like by making, people with flags, with this, whatever, it's very clever marketing to divide and conquer. And many of us, a great percentage of us, are now waking up to that.
And so why is it so global? Do you see the patterns here,
Yeah,
guys?
certainly does.
Has
We
it
do.
all been organised?
It's a massive land grab. The thing I've noticed so far, they are both Commonwealth and non-Commonwealth countries. Because you got to remember, anytime the Commonwealth wants to take land, they can.
Yeah.
They can just take it whenever they want. So King Charles is estimated he owns about 25% of the world because Commonwealth country, they own all the land. The land in England, in America, they've got to be a little bit more creative on how they acquire the land because the government doesn't actually have any rights to your land. So obviously you still got land tax, they can repossess it that way. But if you've paid your taxes, done all the maintenance that you're supposed to do on it, paid all your bills, and you're squeaky clean, they actually don't have a leg to stand on to take your land. So you can actually fight it, and it has been fought in the Supreme Court a few times and actually succeeded. So I don't know how or why they're trying to do the land grab in America.
Oh, well.
And I think they're shitting themselves with Trump coming in again.
Infiltration. That's what's happened before.
Do you have any final thoughts for the show today there, Derek?
Is it good having Travis back?
It's wonderful having Travis back.
After the first 5 minutes of the show, I was thinking of literally.
Where's the gaffer tape?
I love your political insights into the governance of government, right? In terms of the legislation, all
Well,
that sort of
you've
stuff.
just got to remember the government is in the business of governance. They're in the business of controlling the population to do what they want. So if it's in line with what you want, hey, you'll be massively successful.
What I'm saying to you is this. Push back, guys. Push back.
Yes.
And they are concerned. They're scared. I saw a politician just a week ago, terrified when I pushed back, right? And he got real nervous. I was like, far out. And I was thinking, wouldn't want to give me an answer, talked over me the whole time. And I called him out and I said, you just keep talking because you don't want me to get a word edgewise and all that sort of
Get
stuff.
it edgewise?
Yeah.
Boom, boom.
And he just eventually walked away. And I'm like, weak.
He
How
waddled away to
weak
the
is
very
that?
next day.
So, guys, this is the thing. You know what? You're stronger than you think you are. And then when the word gets out and en masse and this sort of thing, well, guess what? They want to keep power. And if you take the power away from them, they don't have it anymore. It's fascinating.
Guess what? 2 words. We're winning.